My name's Chance Acuna. I'm a photographer and content creator out of the East Bay area in California. There's a lot of really terrible things going on in the world right now, and it all seems to be falling apart at once. First, the pandemic and the shelter in place for the past 3 months. And now another senseless and preventable murder of a black man at the hands of the people who are supposed to keep us safe. That man's name was George Floyd, and his blood are on the hands of the Minnesota Police Department. Specifically, Police Officer Derek Chauvin, while Officer Toe Tout and Officers J. Alexander Keong and Thomas K. Lane stood by and watched. This obviously and understandably triggered protests across the world, many of which escalated into riots and looting. Because this was not the first time this has happened, nor will it be the last. And people are fed up. I mean, can you really blame them? This past week, my social feeds have been filled with posts supporting Black Lives Matter and outrage that yet another innocent life was needlessly lost. And before anybody makes a comment about why some of these people were involved with police in the first place, let me just say it doesn't matter. When someone is apprehended, they're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. When they are killed by the hands of the police officers arresting them, they died legally innocent people. But unfortunately, there's been an equal and at times much louder response of all lives matter, and riots don't solve anything, and they should just stick to peaceful protesting. And when they're faced with scrutiny by those of us who believe and support the Black Lives Matter movement, they don't seem to understand where we're coming from. Some of you may have seen the video I posted a couple of days ago in solidarity with Black Lives Matter. After I made that, I couldn't sleep. By saturating my mind with the imagery utilized in that video, it left me in a dark mindset, in a very dark mindset. I started thinking about everything that's been going on lately. History is being made as we speak. And then I started thinking about my future kids. When they open up a history book and read about these times, and they look at me and ask me, what did you do when all of this was going on? Where were you? And I was brought to tears. I mean, what do I want to tell them? That I stood by silent because it wasn't my fight? Or that I was vocal and I took whatever action I could to make a difference? I can't always be at a march or actively participating in demonstrations, but what I can do is create. I can use the mediums that I love so much to try and help boost the signal of the voices that need it the most. So that's what I'm going to try to do. If by making this video I can help at least just one person shift their perspective from one of defensiveness and fear to one of support and understanding, then I feel I'll have done something great. A quote that's been referenced time and time again when tragedies like this happens is one by the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. A riot is the language of the unheard. Let that resonate for a moment. A riot is the language of the unheard. Have you ever been involved in an argument with a loved one and you've gotten so filled with frustration because you just feel like the other person's not listening to you, or more importantly, not hearing you? What do most people do in that situation? I know what I would do. We act out. Maybe you punch a wall. Maybe you throw something across the room. Anything, just to be heard. Really and truly heard. And that's what's going on in the world right now. They've tried time and time again, asking quietly and peacefully. And they've tried screaming at the top of their lungs for change. And each time, it's fallen upon deaf ears. Ears that have been deaf for hundreds of years. And worse, it's a deafness brought on by their own hands and their unwillingness to move them. And now it's reaching a boiling point and they're punching a proverbial wall, pleading, please, just really hear us. We matter. Our lives matter. The lives of our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our fathers. The lives of our children matter. For those of you who are confused about the backlash they receive when people hear all lives matter, There's no only in the Black Lives Matter credence. We're not saying that Black Lives matter more than any other. We're saying that all life can't matter until Black lives do. And it's been proven time and time again that that's just not how the world sees things as a majority. That's the change that they're crying out for. That's the change that we're crying out for. You know, I've heard, you're not even Black. Shouldn't you be all about all lives matter? To that I say a resounding no. I am Filipino and Japanese, and I've come across plenty of prejudice and bigotry in my life, yes. And not only for being Filipino or Japanese. Because I have a bit more of an ambiguous look, I've received hate targeted towards Hispanics, Middle Easterns, Asians, Pacific Islanders. After 9/11 happened, I was threatened by a bunch of kids at my school that they were going to kick my ass because they thought that I was Arab. The night of the 2016 elections, I was walking my dog and I had a bottle thrown at me from a big truck with 2 giant American flags flying behind it while they yelled out, "Go back to your own country, we won," while calling me a racial slur targeted towards Mexican Americans that I'd rather not repeat here. I've been stopped for looking suspicious while walking home. I've been stopped for matching the description. I've been stopped and searched as a teenager, shopping with my mother. And even after all that and more, you know what I say? Black lives matter. Because the fact of the matter is, I still have it leagues easier than any Black person out there. If I were to walk down the street with a Black friend, or even just be in the immediate vicinity of a random Black person and somebody decided to intervene, either a citizen because of their own personal prejudices, or a cop driven by their own, or in the event that they were called in, someone else's personal prejudices, who do you think would end up being scrutinized more? Who's more likely to have a physical interaction with them, whether it's just a frisk or worse? Because I can tell you, it wouldn't be me. 110% of the time, it wouldn't be me. I can't even begin to understand what Black people in this country have to struggle through every day. And unless you're a Black person in white America, neither do you. Check out this video of anti-racism activist Jane Elliott.
I want every white person in this room who would be happy to be treated as this society in general treats our citizens, our Black citizens. If you, as a white person, would be happy to receive the same treatment that our Black citizens do in this society, please stand. You didn't understand the directions. If you white folks want to be treated the way Blacks are in this society, stand. Nobody's standing here. That says very plainly that you know what's happening. You know you don't want it for you. I want to know why you're so willing to accept it or to allow it to happen for others.
Are you surprised? If she asked you, could you bring yourself to stand? Your answer is either no, or you're a bit disillusioned. And until everyone can stand up when they're asked that question, then Black Lives Matter applies. Those of you asking why people can't protest peacefully, first of all, a number of those riots, and especially the looting, were started by a small percentage of people taking advantage of the situation. And of course, they're being pinned on the peaceful protesters and the Black community, when a lot of them were actually white. Secondly, they tried that. They tried taking a knee, they tried marching, they tried using whatever platform they could to speak out whenever they could. But again, it fell on deaf ears. And each time, they were silenced. White America and the powers that be diverted the issues and made it about whatever asinine non-issue they can brush it off to. Thirdly, they're still doing that. The mass majority of protesters out there are out there with peaceful intentions. But guess what? They're still being met with tear gas. They're still being met with pepper spray. They're still being met with rubber or wooden bullets, or worse. some of which were just innocent bystanders, not even involving themselves in any way, just caught in the crossfire of trigger-happy cops. This needs to stop. This needs to change. Black Lives Matter. If you want to help support the cause but are unable to participate in demonstrations, I implore you to speak out in any way you can. Use your voice to support the voiceless. Don't stay quiet anymore. Ignoring racism is just as bad. Call people out, hold them accountable, hold yourselves accountable. A paradigm shift is rarely easy. So if you're called out, don't get defensive, own it. Say, I'm sorry, I didn't consider that. I promise to keep that in mind in the future. And then keep it in mind in the future. Habits can be broken. The way you were brought up does not have to be the way you grow. I've done this myself. I've made inappropriate jokes or comments that I've been called out on because I didn't consider one thing or another. And guess what? Each time they were appreciative of my willingness to hold myself accountable and were 100% forgiving of my transgressions. It's truly an achievable goal if you just put forth the effort. Honestly, I don't know how I want to end this video. All I know is that I needed to get this stuff off my chest before I could just continue on to my normal planned content for this channel. To my fellow members of the Black, Indigenous, and people of color community, stay strong. You're not alone. To everyone else, understand that the most important changes made in this country emerged from the ashes of riots, of which afterwards we rebuilt and came out as a people stronger than ever. But until then, no justice, no peace. Until then, Black Lives Matter.